he didn't go into like, oh, I watch the Ravens, or I watch the Cardinals, being that stereotypical quarterback that can move around, or I just watch Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He kind of put it like, all right, well, I watch film on everybody, and I love that he responded like that.
With Mike. All right, so Barrett, you talked about it before the timeout. Jalen Hurts last night, if you didn't know, was on the Manningcast, which is the alternative broadcast for the Monday Night Football game with the Manning brothers, Peyton and Eli. I'm trying to remember who else it was. John Hamm, Steph Curry, right? And Jalen were the three guests.
Yep.
Last night. So give me your impressions of how he handled himself.
You know what? I thought he handled himself pretty good. They asked him a question. They asked him, like when you're watching film and you try to find players that are kind of like what your skill set is. And I love the fact that Jalen was like, all right, he said, well, I watched film on, guys that had nothing to do with his skill set. You know what I'm saying? Nothing to do with his skill set, meaning don't pigeonhole me into anything. I know that I'm unique in what I bring to the table. I can sit back and drop back. I can pass it like I'm a pocket quarterback. I can run and do that when I want to. You know what I'm saying? I can move the pocket. You can move the pocket. I can read plays, that, most guys can't do it. And I love the fact that he kind of said that. And, they made light of it, especially Eli. Eli said, yeah, I'm kind of the same way, nobody plays like me either. Yeah. So I feel what you're saying, but I mean, he didn't go into like, oh, I watch the Ravens, or I watch the Cardinals, being that stereotypical quarterback that can move around, or I just watch Josh Allen.
Yeah.
He kind of put it like, all right, well, I watch film on everybody, and I love that he responded like that.
No, he was he's always so prepared. He's always just, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's on the field, an interview, or something else. You feel like the guy is always ready to go. Like there's an unbelievable level of maturity with this guy. It really is remarkable. It doesn't matter what it is.
Phillip Rivers is like the most statuesque type of quarterback that ever played the game.
Yeah.
He's not even moving left or right. He's staying right there in the pocket. He said that's what he watched more film on him. They say I watched film on Andrew Luck.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Who is one of the most gifted quarterbacks to play the game, that just, his career just didn't
and his body.
They didn't protect him. Yeah, they didn't protect him. His
body broke down. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? That to me, that was creative by him.
No, it was great. I enjoy I'm fascinated watching the guy. I'm fascinated listening to him. I'm fascinated watching him. I'm all in. I don't find anything boring. I know sometimes he speaks in cliches and all that, but I find it interesting every single time. I think he's a dynamic guy. I really do. All right. So that was interesting. We'll get into the game, by the way. The Niners beat the Rams. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Nick Sirianni said yesterday, guys, that it's not out of the question for every one of the players who were banged up to play. How much of that is gamesmanship? I don't know. I think it's up in the air right now, but at least that's a little encouraging. And I know Michael Clay spoke today, the special teams coordinator, and he sort of backed that up when it came to Jake Elliott specifically. Like, hey, you heard what Coach said. We're going to find out and all that. I don't know, man. I mean, what would you guys say? Would you be surprised if everybody went? I would. I personally would. But
I don't. Like, I didn't know Avonte Maddox wasn't playing until Friday.
Right. We found that out kind of later. Yeah.
So I'm like, what? So I'm like scrambling. Like, what are they going to do? First thing I thought, all right, if they do that, they're going to put C.J. Garner-Johnson at the slot position. That means Wallace has to come in and play. Maybe Reed Blankenship gets a couple of rests, but they totally did the opposite. They went with Josiah Scott, brought him into the slot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
did you like that, Barrett? Would you do that again this week if he's banged up?
No.
Okay.
I would put Wallace in.
Okay.
I put Wallace in and literally bring in C.J. Garner-Johnson as a slot player.
Okay.
It's a slot corner. That's what I would do. But that's why I'm talking about football instead of coaching football.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
I think, every team tells you this preliminary report on Mondays and Tuesdays. I think it's part of the gamesmanship, and I told you guys yesterday from what I was told that all these guys should be fine. But we hear that all the time, and all of a sudden Friday, this one's out, that one's out. You look at how you say Amalo grabbed his ankle when he went down. Slay got out of there in a hurry with the forearm situation.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it too has to do with, okay, how badly do we need certain people when we look at who we're matched up against? If we have solid backups at this position, we should not miss a beat. Let's give so-and-so an extra week just to heal a little bit more because we got Dallas coming up or whoever the opponent may be that's a much bigger opponent. So I would not be surprised. I'm on the fence. I'm always on the fence with this stuff. I would not be surprised if all of these guys sucked it up and played on Sunday. But from when you're looking at a bigger scheme of things, you look at who they're playing this week. They are not that juggernaut offense or defense. They're a fast team, but they're not that juggernaut. They've had difficulties winning at home. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins, which is huge. I think it's going to be a chess match type decision come Friday in terms of who's up and who's down.
Yeah, no, look, I think that's I think you're right. Why you put any kind of definitions on it right now? Wait it out.
Right. Right.
Give yourself a little bit of time. It also plays to your advantage with the Cardinals as well. All right, so we know the Eagles are off to a 4-0 season, or 4-0 start this season. Dug into some of the numbers here for them a little bit. Offensively, in the big three categories, they rank no lower than 6th. So they're 4th in scoring, almost 29 points per game. 5th in the rushing game, 165.3, and the passing game, 270.3, which is 6th. So they're 4, 5, 6 in those categories. I got to tell you, I still see a lot of room for improvement, and that's not a knock on what we gotten so far, but I feel like, what they did Sunday in the running game, they could certainly, I'm not saying 200 something yards every single game, but if they concentrated that heavily on it, they could pound teams that way. I think there's a lot more in the passing game that they haven't even scratched. Like, there's a ton of potential here.
Oh, bro, no question. There's no question about that. I mean, to have that ace in your back pocket is tremendous. You know what I'm saying? It's not just calling a run play and then running it, but the nature in which they have a quarterback that can run those plays is dynamic in itself. Usually people think about decisions the quarterback makes in the passing game, and that's usually when they talk about quarterback decisions. But Jalen has went out there and his reading of the read option, not RPOs. I'm talking about the read option where he's going to run it or the running back's going to run it. Understanding that if you look at it, if it's an 8-man box, 7-man box, or a 6-man box, what play he calls when he's at the line and he sees all three of those type of personnel packages within the box. When I say within the box, I mean in between the tackles, all the defenders in between the tackles. I don't know why Jacksonville thought. I think Jacksonville thought that their guys up front, their linebackers, could take care of the guys in the running game. And they found out real quick, no, you just can't have your defensive line and linebackers in the hole and think that you got to bring another defender inside the box. And by the time they realized, it was too late because now they were just running all over them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They kind of snowballed on them. But teams are going to understand you cannot stop this running game without bringing an extra defender in the box. But why would you say, all right, we're going to, stop the run game when you got two dynamic receivers on the outside? And that's what this, this offense brings to the table. What do? Do you die from 1,000 cuts, or do you die from just stabbing somebody? That's what these defensive coordinators have to work out within themselves.
Yep.
Running the ball is a demoralizing to a defense. If you can run the ball on them and they can't stop you, that's the most demoralizing thing you can do to a defense. But then you put everybody in the box, and what happens? They start passing the ball with big plays.
Barrett, they're doing it a ton against the Eagles. They're loading up the box against the Eagles.
So that makes the guys outside. The decision to bring in A.J. Brown, man, it's unbelievable what he brought to this offense just by himself, man. Because in all actuality, he's really the only big change on the offensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. But he's so dynamic because you have to account for where he is. You have to allocate resources to where he is,
right?
Which means you can't do that to the run game. It used to be if you stop the run, you stop the Eagles. Jalen has shown the capacity now to get that ball out with touch passes, getting the ball on time, reading things, throwing guys open. It's a whole different mantra that these guys got to work at now.
Killer. So, yeah, Derek. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. How many different ways can they kill you here? I mean, they can hurt you throwing it to Devontae with the precise patterns or down the field, high pointing balls, or AJ on slants or underneath yards after catch. We know the way they utilize, and Barrett called for tight end screens this past week, and that's what you got some of those from Dallas Goedert, which are successful. And then pound you on the ground like they did this. Okay, the best team against the run. All right, fine. We're going to run. You only give up 55 yards per game. We're going to run for 200 yards on you.
Right.
The offense has a lot of different ways to hurt. Yeah.
And you still haven't even talked about unleashing a gazelle every now and then in Quez Watkins.
Yes.
Just sending straight fly patterns to loosen up a defense even more so. Pascal underneath. There's so many ways to go. I look at the opponents they have on their schedule this year. I can't think of a defensive unit that can match up everything. There's maybe one or two defenses in the league that might be able to match up everything. If you load up the box, you have the guys on the outside that can play bump and run, or you might be stout enough in the trenches. I thought Washington did a good job of taking away the run from them because of those 2 D tackles they have in the hole, but then they light you up in other ways, but I don't think there's a defense on this schedule that has a complete complement of players that can basically take every way from this team,
Right.
Exactly. And the thing about it is the coaching staff can identify this on the fly as well as any coaching staff in the league and make in-game adjustments like nobody else. All right, you're going to take the run away. Now we're going to torch you. You're going to try to take the pass in the game away. We're going to run you over like an 18-wheeler. So you got to pick your poison with this team. Now, at some point, we all know at some point, every dog has this day. The Eagles are going to have a dog day. That's going to be expected. It doesn't take away from just how good. Whenever they lose, it doesn't take away from how good and how dangerous this team can be.
Right.
That's just the parity of any given Sunday across the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's not just one side of the ball. You go to the defensive side. They're tied for 9th in points allowed. They're 9th against the run, just giving up 100. 7th against the pass, 177. They're getting 4 sacks per game this year. They're taking the ball away at 2.5 per game. They are +8 turnover differential. These are the latter numbers were major problems last year. They weren't getting to the quarterback. They weren't taking the ball away. That's all they preached in the offseason. And this is unlike the offense where it was, and I say just A.J. Brown. This is where you're seeing the dividends from Reddick. You're seeing the dividends from Bradbury.
Sure.
You're seeing the dividends from Jordan Davis, who probably had his best game as an Eagle on Sunday, which we haven't even really touched on too much, right? Just to name a few. This is where those offseason moves have allowed the defensive coordinator to do things a little bit differently.
Talking about the defensive side of the ball, the ability for those 3 cornerbacks who I feel is the best trio of cornerbacks in the league. Slay, Bradbury, and Maddox. I mean, to me, you can't compare them to anybody else in the league. I think they're the best, trio. Now there's duos out there that are pretty good, but I really truly think that this is the best trio in the league for a slot corner and 2 outside corners. That gives defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, the ability to do whatever he wants to do because we know the guys up front. I mean, we knew that those guys could rush the passer. They just haven't done it the past 3 years.
Right.
Well, now they see what the fruits of their labor now for over this whole offseason, what it's bringing to the table. Fletcher Cox looks like he's drinking from the fountain of youth. He's had some type of elixir he's drinking right now. He and Brandon Graham, they've been sipping on the same bottle. They have a new vigor on how they're rushing the passer now. They are getting up the field, creating havoc. I mean, Fletch picked the guard up and sacked the quarterback with the guard in his hand still. I mean, that's just want to. That's all want to. And I'm gonna tell you too, Fletch didn't want to do that last year like he wants to do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become contagious, man. Now it's like, all right, I'm competing against. It's almost like I'm competing against guys like Sweat, Brandon Graham. I'm trying to get there before they get there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, that competition.
Yeah, it all feeds off of each other.
It becomes a frenzy. And
Mm-hmm.
Epps is laying people out. He is showing up in a huge way. Edwards he might have had the best game I've seen him in linebacker. The past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was showing up everywhere on the field. He was knocking cats out. He was making plays everywhere, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love his game, bro. I love his game.
Yeah, there's not much to not like, from what we've seen so far. We've seen, and again, I thought Sunday was a little bit different in that they got down. There was a little bit of adversity, but really after that when they got on that run, it sort of looked like at least the previous 2 games where they just, the other team wasn't really in the same league with them. I mean, frankly, they just weren't. And they were able to do a lot of different things, man. And they can hurt you in a number of different ways. The only issue, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is special teams to keep your eye on for sure. But offensively and defensively, I think you got to be thrilled with what you've seen so far through 4 games.
When you look at the personnel that is assembled on defense in particular, it is a unit that has a hunger, because everything is about this year for a lot of guys. When you talk about Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, it's their legacy in Philadelphia. Will it continue after this year? For Javon Hargrave, will he be here after this year? For Bradbury, Kazir White, will they maximize their contract potential after this season into multiple-year contracts compared to a 1-year contracts? There's a lot on the line for a lot of these guys. Do they want to win? No question about it. That goes without saying. They want to win. They want to stand tall like a number of other teams and hoist that Lombardi trophy when it's all said and done. But in a bigger longevity picture of things, there's a lot of stake for a lot of guys playing on this defensive side of the ball for this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. Let's look at Hurts here, and we'll get into a Kyler Murray comparison in a little bit. But he's thrown for over 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns, has 2 interceptions, 1 legitimately on him, the other one not so much. Completing almost 67% of his passes. He's got a 99.6 passer rating, rushed 53 times, 205 yards. It's a little less than 4 yards per carry, but and we saw this last year too. I think he had 10 last year. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns already through 4 games. That's where he can just kill you. If you're in the red zone, man, and he takes off with that, like you said, Barrett, the RPO and the decision making. He's really got an awesome feel for when to keep it himself or when to give it off to a running back.
Exactly. He knows when to keep it, know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to run. He's got it now, man. He knows what he needs to do, man. And his leadership abilities, man, that goes without saying, because they trust that he can get the job done. Nick Sirianni and offensive coordinator Shane Steichen trust what he can do. That's why you keep seeing Nick. That's all he says. I trust him to do it.
Well, how about that? Did you see this, guys? This was fascinating. The audio. Peter King wrote about it today in the MMQB. Is that what it's still called? Is it MMQB? I think it is. I don't know. Yeah. But he was at the game, and he wrote about how he went over to, I think it was after that, when they went for it on 4th down and scored the first touchdown, the one where Jalen Hurts breaks the tackle at the goal line. He goes over to him and he says, look, the reason I did that is I trust you. All right. I trust you. I know you're going to get us in that situation. And I know coaches and players have those kind of exchanges a lot, but that says a lot. It does. It says a lot about how he feels about Jalen Hurts. Exactly.
You can't downplay that or underplay that. He truly does trust his ability to go out there and make plays, man. And like I said, it's not just, everybody talks about quarterback decisions to throw into double coverage or throw a guy open or trust that he's going to see the blitz. How about him, trusting that he's going to call the right run play when he's at the line of scrimmage, when he's going to trust his read of watching that end, watching that linebacker, knowing what to do with the ball. Mm-hmm. They really do trust him, and they put a lot on Jalen's on his plate. Yeah. They put a lot, an awful lot. Plays in which you guys don't think, most people don't think has to make a decision with. Mm-hmm. he has to make a decision with everything that they put on his plate, man. He just shows how dynamic he is in understanding what his role is on just about every single play.
Do you guys worry at all? And this is not a Jalen, it's an Eagles question, but do you worry at all about a look ahead? You got the Cowboys on deck. You got the Cardinals next. Do you worry at all with a 4-0 team looking ahead to the Cowboys a little bit?
No. You have too much leadership in that locker room that's been down this road many times before, and they'll keep it in a proper perspective. Even when you look at the guys who haven't been here that long and don't have a full grasp of the Eagles Cowboys rivalry, like a Javon Hargrave, a Bradbury, things like that. When you got Brandon Graham in your ear, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey in your ear, Lane Johnson, you have the perfect contingent of veteran players who have been down these roads and have sidestepped a lot of these landmines many times before, to keep players who are still trying to grasp the perspective of what a Dallas Eagles rivalry means. The young players will not be allowed to get full of themselves and get too far ahead down the road. You have just enough veteran leadership on the back end to keep the young DBs. You look at the backfield. Miles Sanders has been here long enough. Gainwell's been here. He's got that experience. Boston Scott knows what it's like. Whatever Trey Sermon doesn't know, they'll make sure they let him know that. Across the board, the offensive line, the entire offensive line, they've been down this road before. So no, there's no looking ahead. They understand the magnitude of what's coming this Sunday, because from a defensive perspective, say what you want to say about the Arizona Cardinals, they still have to chase that little gnat around. And that little net, for as long as he's upright and pirouetting and spinning around, he's capable of making plays and doing some damage. He's capable by himself of physically exhausting a defense.
Right.
They understand this. They understand it. They understand their road. They understand the matter at hand. Hey, we're leading the division. We are the last of the undefeated teams. We are playing for home field advantage. Okay. And if Dallas finds a way to beat the Rams, which I think they will, then we've got to take care of this biggest nemesis. That's 13 days from now. 5 days from now, this is what's most important. No, I think this team is mature enough to handle every situation every week. And even though you have a young quarterback, I think that young quarterback, and I've said it a number of times, the young quarterback is mature far beyond his 24 years of age.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it, Barrett. I don't buy, I think there's great leadership, veteran and young. I think when you have you have Kelsey and Johnson and Fletcher and Hargrave and guys who have been around for a long time, coupled with a young, mature quarterback and a coach who's always going to stay on him. That's how you avoid. That doesn't mean you're going to win all the games, but I don't think it's going to be a case where they're just thinking about the Cowboys nonstop.
No, they're not. I mean, you're talking about a team that all they talk about is keeping paying the rent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not just game by game. They're literally going day by day on how they approach everything about this season. You know what I'm saying? You gotta put money in the bank every single day.
Yep.
Because rent is due every Sunday. And that's their mantra. That's how they approach every situation. Take care of the little things, crossing your T's, dotting your I's is how you go forward. You win games on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You don't win games on Sunday.
Yep,
you win,
absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? It's already won on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, no question. All right, we're going to come back. And
hold on.
What's the matter?
I got to stop looking at the chats, man. I don't know how they get on these tangents sometimes. They're giving us Batman monikers now. So they're calling Barrett White Castle Batman. They got Rob Ellis, lactose intolerant Batman. I saw the one. John Dickerson needs his own show. He got Rob E as milkless Batman. D Gun is smoking Batman, and Barrett is Adada Batman, aka Fisher Batman. And then somebody said Barrett Slider Batman.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And yeah. Rob is I can't handle flavor Batman.
It's true. It's true. Hard to argue.
Oh my goodness.
I could have like a Batman costume or uniform with like anti, like hot food or anti, medium well, patches all over the place. Yeah.
And big Seals is salty Batman.
That's great, man.
I gotta stay off this chat, man.
I love it. We love everybody in the chat room. We appreciate you guys. And while you're at it, hit that like button. We would appreciate that as well. All right, let's step aside. We're gonna dive into the Cardinals here, guys, because there's some interesting tidbits here that you might want to pay attention to. I'll give you one that just came out regarding Kyler Murray that's fascinating, and I gotta ask you guys if it's sustainable. So we'll dig into that when we get back. Don't go anywhere. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network on this Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out with us, Derek Barrett and Rob. It's time to talk a little Pro Action Restoration. Pro Action Restoration is the place that you reach out to if your home, your business, a property you own goes through the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage, whatever the case may be, they can handle it. Pro Action is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. I've gone through it on a Saturday, kind of off, not exactly peak hours. Called them. The crew was right there. They cleaned it up. They fixed the issue. They were professional, and the price was reasonable. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades, so they are reputable. They are also, by the way, will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So they get you covered every single which way, whether it's water, fire, smoke damage, whatever the case may be. Throw mold remediation in there. You got to take care of that. You can't mess around with that kind of stuff. You name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760. That's 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.